The fate mark was supposed to be a blessing. When it appeared on Sidra's wrist, burning silver against her skin, she had believed her life might finally change. The mark meant she was destined for the Alpha King himself. But fate had a cruel sense of humor, because when Sidra stood before Alpha King Dravek of Ashenmoor, her mark pulsing in recognition of his, he looked at her with eyes like frozen steel and said one word: no. The rejection should have been the end. In Ashenmoor, rejected fated mates were cast out, sold, or worse. Sidra was already cursed in the eyes of her people, accused of killing her betrothed with magic she could not control, branded by her own father, despised by her own blood. She expected death. She expected exile. She did not expect the Alpha King to stop her at the doors, to turn her around, to offer her an arrangement that made no sense. He would marry her. He would protect her. He would give her everything a queen might want. But he would never complete the bond, never truly claim her, never let his wolf recognize hers. "I will never love you," he said, and his voice was cold as the northern peaks. "The moment I do, we both die." Sidra should have refused, should have run, but she had learned something in her years of suffering. Cold was survivable. Cruelty was not. She accepted his terms. Neither of them understood what fate truly demanded. The great hall of Ashenmoor smelled of cedar smoke and fear. Sidra stood among the other marked women on the raised stone platform, her wrists bound not by chains but by something far worse. The fate mark burned against her skin like a brand, silver light pulsing beneath her sleeve where she had tried and failed to hide it. 3 days ago, it had appeared without warning. 3 days ago, her life had ended. Because the mark had chosen her for him, the Alpha King. And everyone in Ashenmoor knew what Sidra was. "Murderer," someone whispered from the crowd below. "She killed her own betrothed, burned him alive with witchfire." Sidra kept her eyes fixed on the stone floor. She had stopped defending herself years ago. No one believed her. Not her father, Roderick Valdris, who stood near the edge of the platform with barely concealed satisfaction on his weathered face. Not her sister Ottilie, who watched from the noble's gallery with cold, beautiful indifference. Not the pack that had once been her family. The claiming ceremony was supposed to be sacred. When a wolf's fate mark appeared, they were brought before the Alpha to be recognized, to be honored. The mark meant the goddess had chosen them. But Sidra's mark was an abomination, a cosmic joke. The cursed girl, chosen for the king. Silence. The voice of the ceremony master cut through the whispers. The Alpha King approaches. The great doors at the far end of the hall groaned open, and then Sidra felt it. Power. Not the ordinary dominance of a strong wolf. This was something older, something primal, and something that pressed against her chest and made her wolf cower deep inside her. She looked up. She could not help it. Alpha King Dravek of Ashenmoor walked into the hall, as if the world existed only at his pleasure. He was tall, taller than any man present, with hair as black as raven feathers falling past his shoulders, and eyes the color of winter storms. Gray, silver, cold beyond measure. Rumors said he was beautiful. But beautiful was the wrong word. Beautiful implied warmth. Implied something human. Dravek looked like he had been carved from ice and shadow. And as he walked toward the platform, Sidra noticed something else. He was pale. Too pale. His jaw was clenched tight, the muscles in his neck corded with tension. His hands trembled almost imperceptibly. Something was wrong with him. The Alpha King ascended the platform steps, and every marked woman straightened, preened, hoped. He walked past the first, a merchant's daughter with copper hair. Walked past the second, a warrior with ritual scars. Walked past the third, fourth, fifth, his expression revealing nothing. Then he stopped. Directly in front of Sidra. Her fate mark blazed to life beneath her sleeve, burning through the fabric like a star trapped beneath her skin. And on his wrist, exposed by the cut of his formal coat, she saw its twin, his mark, glowing in response to hers. The crowd gasped. Her! The cursed one? His fated mate is a murderer? Sidra forced herself to meet his eyes. Up close, they were even colder than she had imagined. He studied her the way one might study an insect, or a problem. She saw something flicker in those frozen depths, recognition, then something that might have been pain, then nothing. His expression closed like a door slamming shut. No. One word. Cold. Absolute. Final. The hall went silent. I reject this bond. The words hit Sidra like a physical blow. Her wolf howled inside her, wounded, dying, as the rejection tore through the fragile thread between them. She stumbled. Would have fallen if the guards hadn't grabbed her arms. Her father's smile was triumphant. Remove her, Dravik said, already turning away. She is not welcome here. The guards dragged her toward the doors, toward exile, toward whatever fate awaited rejected mates in Ashenmoor. Sidra did not fight. She had no fight left. But as the doors loomed before her, a sound stopped everyone in the hall. A low, rumbling growl, primal, dangerous, and it was coming from the Alpha King himself. Then his voice, cutting through the chaos like a blade. Wait. Every guard froze. Every whisper died. Every eye turned back toward the platform where Alpha King Dravik stood rigid, his hand pressed against his chest as if something inside him was trying to claw its way out. Sidra watched, still gripped by the guards, as the most powerful man in Ashenmoor seemed to war with himself. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. His other hand had curled into a fist, knuckles white with strain. And his eyes, when they found hers across the hall, were not entirely human. Something else looked out from behind that silver gaze, something wild, something hungry. Bring her back. The command was barely more than a growl, but every wolf in the hall felt it in their bones. The guards turned Sidra around, marched her back up the platform steps, and released her before the Alpha King. She stood trembling before him, her fate mark still burning, her wolf still bleeding from the rejection. Up close, she could see the sheen of sweat on his brow, the fine tremors running through his frame. Your Majesty, the ceremony master began nervously. If you've rejected the bond, the law requires. I know what the law requires. Dravik's voice was strained. I am not invoking rejection rights. I am invoking sovereign claim. The crowd erupted in confused murmurs. Sovereign claim was ancient law, rarely used. It meant the Alpha could take any wolf as mate without the blessing of the bond. It meant she would be his, but not truly his. I will take her, Dravik announced. She will be my queen in name. She will bear my title, my protection, my authority. He paused. But the bond will remain incomplete. My wolf will never claim hers. She will be queen. She will not be mate. Sidra's mind reeled. This made no sense. Your Majesty, I must protest. Her father's voice rang out as Roderick pushed through the crowd, his face twisted with rage. You don't know what this creature is. She murdered her betrothed. She's dangerous. I wasn't speaking to you. Dravik's voice dropped to something quiet and deadly. The temperature in the hall seemed to plummet. Roderick stumbled back as if he'd been struck. I was speaking to my future queen. The Alpha King turned back to Sidra. Do you accept these terms? Her throat was dry. Her hands were shaking. I don't understand, she whispered. Why would you? Do you accept? He repeated, urgency beneath the cold. The alternative is exile. Your father will have rights over your fate. I suspect you know what that means. She knew. Roderick had made her life a nightmare since the night Leander died. If he got control of her now, she would pray for death long before it came. Cedra looked at the Alpha King, at his trembling hands and too pale face, and eyes that held secrets she couldn't fathom. "I accept," she said. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell him, winter pine and something darker beneath, and leaned down to speak in her ear. "I will marry you. I will protect you. I will ensure no one harms you." His voice was barely audible. "But I will never complete the bond. The moment that happens, something far worse than your death awaits us both. Do you understand?" She didn't understand. Not at all. But she nodded anyway. He pulled back, addressing the crowd with cool authority. "The ceremony will take place in 3 days. Prepare the Queen's chambers." As he strode from the hall, Sidra noticed something that made her blood run cold. His fate mark was visible on his wrist. It was not just glowing. It was spreading. Dark veins crept from its edges like poison beneath his skin, like something hungry was using the bond to crawl deeper into his body. He wasn't just making a political arrangement, he was fighting for his life. The contract signing took place the following morning in the council chamber, a vast room of dark stone and darker secrets. Sidra had barely slept. The chambers they had given her were larger than any space she had ever occupied, with velvet drapes and a canopied bed, and servants who bowed when she passed. No one had bowed to Sidra in years. She followed her escort into the council chamber, her chest tightening with dread. The Alpha King sat at the head of a long table flanked by 2 advisors. In the light from the tall windows, he looked even paler than before. The dark veins she had glimpsed were hidden beneath formal sleeves, but she knew they were there. And at the far end of the table, watching her with eyes full of cold fury, sat her father. "Please sit," Dravek said, gesturing to the chair beside him. Sidra sat. Her hands trembled in her lap. "The marriage contract has been prepared according to His Majesty's specifications," one of the advisors announced. "The terms are as follows." He began to read. Sidra listened with growing disbelief. She would be queen in title, granted full authority and protection. She would have access to the royal treasury, the royal estates, and the royal name. But she would not share his chambers, would not share his bed except as necessity required. The bond would remain incomplete. And then, the final term. "There will be no children." Sidra's head snapped up. "What?" Dravek's expression remained unreadable. "The contract prohibits offspring. Heirs will be selected from appropriate bloodlines when the time comes. No children, no complete bond, no real marriage at all." "Why? Your Majesty," her father's voice sliced through her thoughts. "I must once again protest. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Her magic is bound," Dravek interrupted calmly. "By your hand, as I understand it." Roderick stiffened. "I had no choice. After what she did to Leander." "What she did?" The Alpha King's tone sharpened. "Tell me, Lord Valdris, what exactly did she do?" Sidra watched her father's face cycle through several expressions. A shadow crossed his expression. Surprise, anger, and beneath them, something that looked almost like fear. "She killed him," Roderick said. "Burned him alive with witch fire. There were witnesses." "Were there?" Dravek leaned back, studying Roderick. "I've read the reports from that night. The only witness was your other daughter, Ottilie, who was, I believe, betrothed to the same man before you transferred the engagement to Sidra." The room went very still. "What are you implying?" Roderick demanded. "Nothing at all." Dravek's voice was silk over steel. "Simply noting the facts. Sign the contract, Lord Valdris." Her father's hand shook as he signed. Sidra watched him. This man who had hated her since she was born. He was afraid. Good. She signed her own name. Then the king signed. Then the advisors witnessed. And it was done. The corridor outside was mercifully empty, But Sidra had only taken a few steps before a voice stopped her. "You think he's saving you?" She turned. Ottilie stood in an alcove near the windows, her pale blonde hair immaculate. "He's giving me a life instead of death," Sidra said quietly. "He's giving you a death sentence. Just a slower one." "What are you talking about?" Ottilie glanced down the corridor. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you know why the kings of Ashenmoor never bond with their fated mates? Every alpha king who has completed the bond has turned feral. Their wolf consumes them. They become monsters that have to be put down." Ice spread through Sidra's veins. "He's not protecting you," Ottilie continued. "He's protecting himself. He invoked sovereign claim because he thought it would keep his wolf contained." She stepped closer. "But the bond doesn't care about technicalities. When his wolf decides it wants you, when the curse takes hold, he'll turn, and you'll die with him." Air caught in Sidra's throat, the dark veins spreading from his mark, the tremors in his hands, the cold that radiated from him. Unnatural for an alpha. He was already turning. "Why are you telling me this?" Sidra managed. Ottilie smiled coldly. "Because Father may have failed to destroy you, but the curse won't. One way or another, you'll die screaming. I wanted you to know it was coming." She walked away, heels clicking against stone. Sidra stood alone with the weight of an impossible truth. She hadn't escaped her fate at all. She had walked directly into it. The claiming ceremony was held at moonrise, 3 days later in the ancient stone circle at the heart of Ashenmoor's sacred grove. Sidra walked the processional path alone. No father to escort her, no family to witness. Only the pack, hundreds of wolves gathered in the torchlit darkness, watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. She wore white, as tradition demanded. A gown of pale silk that left her shoulders bare and her fate mark visible, still glowing faintly. The servants had braided her dark hair with silver thread and winter jasmine. She looked like a bride. She felt like a sacrifice. The stone circle loomed before her, ancient pillars carved with symbols older than memory. At its center, bathed in moonlight, stood Dravek. He wore black. His hair was loose, falling past his shoulders like dark water, and in the silver light his features looked sharper than ever. Inhuman. Beautiful in the way that dangerous things were beautiful. But Sidra saw what others might miss. The slight tremor in his hands, the tension in his jaw, the dark veins beneath his collar, spreading higher than 3 days ago. He was getting worse. She ascended the steps, and the crowd fell silent. The high priestess, an ancient wolf with milky eyes, raised her hands. "We gather beneath the mother moon to witness a claiming. 2 wolves bound by fate, joined now by choice. Let the bond be spoken." Dravek turned to face her. In the moonlight his eyes looked almost silver. He reached out and took her hands. Cold. His skin was cold as winter stone. "I claim you before this pack," he said, his voice carrying through the grove, "as my wife, as my queen, as the other half of my fate." The words sent a shiver through her. "I offer you my protection, my name, my kingdom, everything I have and everything I am." He paused. "I offer you everything," he repeated, quieter now, "except the one thing you deserve. And for that, I am sorry." Sidra stared at him. The Alpha King of Ashenmoor was apologizing to her, here, in front of his entire pack. "And the response?" the High Priestess prompted. "I accept your claim," Sidra said. "I give myself to your protection, your name, your kingdom. I ask nothing more than what you freely offer." Emotion stirred behind his gaze. Surprise, perhaps. Or something deeper. "The claiming is spoken," the High Priestess announced. "Now let it be sealed. Let the Alpha mark his mate." This was the moment Sidra had dreaded. Tradition demanded a bite. But Dravek released one hand and reached into his coat. He withdrew a small box, opened it, and showed her what lay inside. A ring, silver, set with a pale moonstone that glowed faintly. "In place of the mark," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "I offer this, a symbol of our bond that requires no blood, no bite." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was unprecedented. But Dravek was the law. He slid the ring onto her finger, and Sidra felt warmth bloom in her chest despite everything. He had found a way to honor her without hurting her. "With this ring," Dravek said, "I bind myself to you. Not by force, not by fate alone, by choice." "The claiming is complete," the High Priestess said. "You may seal the bond with a kiss." The crowd leaned forward. Dravek stepped closer. "May I?" he asked, so quietly only she could hear. She nodded. He cupped her face in his cold hands, leaned down, and pressed his lips to her forehead. Not her mouth. Her forehead. A gesture of protection, of respect. The crowd gasped, whispered, wondered. But Sidra stood frozen, eyes burning with tears she refused to shed, feeling for the first time in years like someone had seen her as worthy of gentleness. When he pulled back, his thumb brushed her cheekbone once, feather-light. "My queen," he said formally, "the Lady Sidra of Ashenmoor." The crowd erupted in the traditional howl of welcome. But beneath the celebration, Sidra saw other faces. Her father, white with rage. Her sister, watching with that strange fear still in her eyes. And the king himself, his hand pressed discreetly against his chest, where the dark veins were surely spreading. Something was very wrong with him. And despite everything, Sidra found herself wanting to help him. That realization terrified her more than anything else. The queen's chambers were in the North Tower, far from the king's rooms. That distance was deliberate. The further apart they slept, the weaker the bond's pull. But tonight, their wedding night, tradition demanded they spend it together. Sidra sat on the edge of the massive bed, trying to calm the terror and anticipation warring in her chest. 3 soft knocks at the door. "Come in," she managed. Dravek entered, and breath abandoned her. He had changed from the formal clothes. Now he wore only a simple shirt, unlaced at the throat, and dark trousers. His feet were bare. Without the layers of royal armor, he looked younger, more human, and more exhausted than she had ever seen him. He closed the door behind him. "You don't have to be afraid," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "I'm not here to force anything." Sidra nodded, but her hands were still trembling. Dravek crossed the room slowly and stopped a few feet from the bed. This close, she could see the shadows under his eyes, the pallor of his skin, the fine tremors running through his frame. "You're cold," she said, without thinking. "Even from here, I can feel it." He stiffened. "It's nothing. It's not nothing. I saw your mark at the ceremony, the veins spreading from it. And Atalia told me—" "What did she tell you?" His voice sharpened. Sidra hesitated, but she was tired of secrets. "She told me about the curse, that every Alpha King who completes the bond turns feral, that you're not protecting me. You're protecting yourself." Silence stretched between them. Then Dravek laughed. It was a broken sound, hollow and bitter. "She's not entirely wrong," he admitted. "But she's not entirely right either." He moved to the window, staring out at the moonlit mountains. The silver light caught the dark veins on his neck, and Sidra saw them pulse faintly, like something alive. "The curse is real," he said. "Every Alpha King who is fully bonded with their fated mate has lost themselves. Their humanity burns away. They become monsters." He paused. "My father did. I watched him tear my mother apart before the guards could put him down. I was 7 years old." Sidra's chest tightened. "Dravek, I swore I would never let that happen to me. I would never take a fated mate, never complete the bond. But then I appeared." Sidra whispered. Then you appeared. He turned to look at her. The moment I saw you, my wolf woke. For the first time in my life, he wanted. And the curse. He touched his chest. The curse started immediately. Just being near you accelerates it. Then why did you stop them? Why didn't you let them exile me? Dravek was quiet for a long moment. Because my wolf wouldn't let me, he finally said. The moment you started walking toward those doors, something inside me broke. He would rather die than let you leave. The confession hung in the air. Raw. Vulnerable. Sidra rose from the bed and crossed to where he stood. She moved slowly, carefully. So what do we do? She asked softly. We maintain distance. We keep the bond incomplete. We hope that's enough to slow the curse until I can find a cure. And tonight? He looked at her, and she saw the war raging behind his eyes, the man fighting the wolf, the king fighting the curse. Tonight, he said quietly, I should leave you in peace. But he didn't move. Sidra reached out, took his hand. His skin was ice against her warmth, and she felt him shudder at the contact. You're freezing, she said, and you look like you haven't slept in days. I haven't. Then stay. Not for, just stay. You can sleep here. I'll tend the fire. Dravek stared at her as if she had suggested something impossible. You would do that? After knowing what I might become? Sidra thought of her father's hatred, her sister's cruelty, the years of being blamed for something she didn't do. I know what it's like to be seen as a monster, she said. I know what it's like to fight something inside yourself, and I know what it's like to be alone in that fight. She squeezed his cold fingers. You don't have to be alone tonight. For a long moment, he didn't respond. Then, slowly, like a man surrendering, he nodded. They didn't consummate the marriage. That would have pushed the bond too close to completion. Instead, Sidra built up the fire until the room blazed with warmth. She led him to the bed, piled blankets over him, did everything she could to chase away the cold in his bones. And when his eyes finally closed, when his breathing finally steadied, she sat beside him and watched him sleep. His face was softer in sleep, younger. Her hand moved of its own accord, brushing a strand of dark hair from his forehead. He stirred but didn't wake, and his hand, beneath the blankets, found hers and held it. Cold fingers intertwined with warm. Sidra stayed there all night, feeding the fire, holding his hand, wondering how she had gone from condemned to queen in the span of a week. And wondering, with growing terror, why her heart ached at the thought of losing him. The days that followed were strange and fragile, like walking on ice that might crack at any moment. They did not share a bed again. Dravek kept his distance during daylight hours, attending to his duties while Sidra explored her new role as queen. She had audiences with nobles who barely concealed their contempt. She sat through council meetings where her presence was tolerated, but her opinions were not wanted. But every evening, without fail, he came to her. Sometimes he brought documents, pretending he needed a quiet place to work. Sometimes he brought food, claiming the kitchens had prepared too much. Sometimes he brought nothing at all, simply appearing at her door with shadows under his eyes and tension in his shoulders. They talked. That was all. About everything and nothing. The trade agreements he was negotiating, the books she had found in the royal library, the childhood memories neither had ever shared. Sidra learned he had been a lonely boy, isolated by his father's madness and his own knowledge of the curse. He had never had friends, never let anyone close, and he learned about her, the mother who had died in childbirth, the father who blamed her, the magic that had manifested when she was 13, fire she could never control. That's why he bound it, she admitted one night, curled by the fire while Dravek sat across from her. My magic. He said it was too dangerous. And did you? Dravik asked quietly. Hurt someone? Sidra looked into the flames. I don't know. That's the worst part. She told him about Leander. The betrothal arranged when she was 16. The young nobleman who had been kind at first, then indifferent, then cruel as he fell in love with her sister instead. He and Ottilie planned to run away together, Sidra said. I found out the night before. I confronted him. I was angry, hurt. And then, her voice broke. There was fire, everywhere. I don't remember starting it. I don't remember anything except the heat, the screaming, and then Leander was dead. Tears slid down her cheeks. My father had my magic bound the next day, branded me as a dangerous witch. She laughed bitterly. Maybe I did kill him. Maybe he was right about me. The chair creaked as Dravek rose. His footsteps crossed the room, and then his cold hand was on her shoulder. May I see it? He asked. The brand? Slowly, she pushed back her sleeve, revealing the thin silver scar that crossed her inner forearm, the binding brand. Dravek traced the scar with one finger. His touch was cold, but it didn't hurt. Your father is a fool, he said quietly. And a liar. She looked up, startled. I've read the reports from that night. The fire that killed Leander Voss didn't start from inside the room where you were arguing. It started from outside, from the corridor. Her lungs seized. What? Someone else set that fire, Dravek said. Someone who wanted Leander dead and wanted you blamed. Your magic may have reacted to the flames, but you didn't start them. The world tilted beneath her feet. I'm going to find out who really killed him, Dravek said. And when I do, your father will answer for what he's done. She looked up at him through her tears. Why? She whispered. Why do you care? Vulnerability flickered across his face. The ice cracked, just a little. Because you're mine, he said. Bond or no bond. The moment I saw you, something in me knew. You are mine, Sidra, and I protect what's mine. Her blood rushed in her ears, and then she saw it. His hand was trembling violently. The dark veins had spread further up his neck. His skin was even paler, almost translucent. Dravek, she said. Your curse. It's getting worse. He released her arm, stepping back. It's fine, he said through gritted teeth. It's not fine. I need to leave. He was backing toward the door, his control visibly fracturing. When I'm near you, it accelerates. When I touch you, it's worse. I shouldn't have. He stumbled, caught himself on the doorframe. Dravek! But he was already gone, fleeing like a man running from his own death. Sidra stood alone, her mind racing. He protected her. He believed her innocent. He promised her justice. And every moment he spent doing those things, the curse ate him alive. She looked down at her fate mark. It glowed faintly, pulsing with a bond that wanted to complete itself. A bond that would kill him if it did. Unless she found another way. She would save him. Even if it meant confronting her father, her sister, the entire rotten history that had brought her here. She would break this curse, or she would die trying. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of watching Dravek deteriorate before her eyes. He still came to her chambers each evening, though he no longer stayed as long, no longer let himself sit close or touch her hand. The curse was spreading faster now, and every moment of proximity fed its hunger. Sidra had not been idle. She had spent her days searching ancient texts for any mention of the curse. She had questioned the castle's healers, historians, and oldest servants. What she learned chilled her to the bone. The curse had been placed on the Ashenmoor line generations ago by a witch whose name had been struck from every record. A punishment for a king who had betrayed her. The bond between fated mates was the trigger. The deeper the bond, the faster the transformation. No one had ever broken it, but Sidra refused to accept that. She was in the library when she found it. A crumbling journal hidden behind a shelf, written in faded brown ink. The diary of a queen named Merowen. I have discovered the truth, the final entry read. The curse was never meant to be permanent. The witch who cast it built a failsafe, but Aldrich refuses to hear it. Tomorrow he will send me away, but I will not go quietly. I will find her. The witch's descendant. She alone holds the key. The entry ended there. The remaining pages had been torn out. She had to tell Dravek. She found him in the war room, bent over maps with his generals. When he saw her, joy flickered in his eyes, quickly suppressed. Leave us, he told the generals. When the door closed, Sidra rushed forward. I found something, a way to break the curse. There's a failsafe, Dravek. The witch who created it left a way out. For a moment, hope flared in his expression. Then it died. I know about Merowen's journal, he said quietly. I found it years ago. I followed every lead. The witch's descendants are gone. The line ended centuries ago. You don't know that. I do. His voice cracked. I've spent my entire life looking for a cure. There is none. There is only this. He gestured at himself. A slow death, or a fast one? Then let me help you search again. No. The word was sharp. Every moment you spend near me accelerates the curse. You need to leave, Sidra. Go somewhere safe. I won't. You must. No. She moved around the table, forcing him to look at her. I spent my entire life running, being pushed away. I won't run anymore. Not from you. Sidra, I love you. The words escaped before she could stop them. Dravek went still. His eyes widened, filled with something that looked like agony. Don't, he whispered. Please don't. It's too late. Tears burned in her eyes. I tried not to. But you came to me every night, and you believed me when no one else did, and you promised to protect me, and I... Her voice broke. I love you, Dravek. And I won't let you die. He stared at her for one endless moment, and then he moved. His hands cupped her face, ice-cold and trembling, and his mouth crashed against hers. The kiss was desperate, hungry, the kiss of a man who had denied himself everything and finally surrendered. Sidra gasped against his lips, her hands fisting in his shirt. Heat and cold, fire and ice. The bond blazed to life, brighter than ever. Dravek pulled back with a ragged cry. His hand flew to his chest. Beneath his shirt, the dark veins pulsed, spreading faster than ever before. No, she gasped. No, no, no. It's too late. His voice was barely a whisper. His legs buckled. He collapsed against the table, then slid to the floor, convulsing as the curse tore through him. You have to go. I'm not leaving you. She dropped to her knees beside him. His skin was so cold it burned. His eyes were losing focus. Sidra. Her name was a breath on his lips. I love... He stopped mid-word. His eyes rolled back. His body went limp. And the Alpha King of Ashenmoor lay still in her arms, caught between life and death. Sidra screamed. The healers came, then the council, then the priests and elders and every wolf who thought they might help. None of them could. Dravek lay in his chambers, surrounded by candles and ancient sigils. His breathing was shallow, his skin translucent, the dark veins covering his entire torso and creeping up his face. He hadn't woken since he collapsed. He has perhaps 2 days, the head healer said grimly. After that, either his heart stops, or... She didn't finish. Sidra stood at his bedside, her hand clasped around his frozen fingers. There has to be a way, she said. The journal mentioned a descendant. The witch's line is extinct, an elder said wearily. Then verify it again. Search every record. Send messengers to every corner of the kingdom. Find me that descendant. The council exchanged uncomfortable glances, but they obeyed. Sidra was left alone with Dravek, She sank into the chair beside his bed, still holding his hand. "I won't let you die," she whispered. "Do you hear me?" Hours passed. Night fell. The candles burned low. She was half dozing when the door opened. She turned, expecting the council. It was Ottilie. Her sister stood in the doorway, pale and trembling, her usual composure completely shattered. "What do you want?" Sidra asked flatly. Ottilie closed the door, took a deep breath. "I know who killed Leander." Sidra went still. "And I know where to find the witch's descendant. Because I've known all along. Father made me swear never to tell." The world tilted. "What are you talking about?" Ottilie crossed to the foot of Dravek's bed. "Father killed Leander," she said quietly. "He used fire magic to do it." "That's impossible. Father doesn't have—" "He does. He's always had it. Inherited it from his mother, just like you did. He learned to hide it." Dread pooled in Sidra's stomach. "He killed Leander because Leander was going to expose him," Ottilie continued. "Father had been embezzling from the pack treasury for years. Leander discovered it. So Father eliminated the threat and framed you." "And you knew?" Sidra's voice was barely a whisper. "All this time?" "Yes." "And you said nothing?" Tears spilled down Ottilia's cheeks. "I was afraid. Father said he would kill me too. I was weak. I was a coward. I let him destroy you because I was too scared to stand up to him." Sidra wanted to scream, but Dravek lay dying. "The witch's descendant," she said. "Where?" "Her name is Thessaly. Father found her years ago. He's been keeping her prisoner at the Valdris estate, using her magic to enhance his own power." Horror washed over Sidra. "For over a decade," Ottilie confirmed. "She's the only one who can break the curse." Sidra looked at Dravek, at his too still face, his frozen hands. 2 days, maybe 3. "Will you help me?" she asked. "Will you stand against Father?" Ottilie hesitated. Then she straightened. "Yes. I've been a coward for too long." Sidra rose from her chair. "Then let's go get our witch." They rode through the night, Sidra, Ottilie, and a small contingent of the king's guards. The Valdris estate loomed against the gray dawn sky. Sidra had grown up here, had suffered here, had been branded within these walls. Now she was returning as queen. "Father will have guards," Ottilie warned, "and wards. Can you get us through them?" "I helped him set them. I can bring them down." They slipped past drowsy guards. Ottilie led them through corridors Sidra remembered all too well, past the room where her father had beaten her, deeper into the house. Finally, they reached a hidden door behind a false wall. Ottilie pressed her hand against the stone, murmured words that made Sidra's skin prickle, and the wall dissolved. Beyond it lay stairs descending into darkness. "She's down there," Ottilie whispered. Sidra took a torch and descended. The cellar beneath the cellar was a nightmare. Stone walls slick with moisture, chains hanging from hooks. And in the corner, huddled on filthy straw, a woman. She was ancient, white hair tangled, skin papery and pale, but her eyes were sharp and bright and full of power. "Thessaly?" Sidra asked softly. The old woman smiled, a terrible smile. "Another Valdris. Come to drain what's left of me? No, I've come to set you free, and to beg for your help." Thessaly studied her. "You carry the fate mark, bound to the Alpha King." "Yes." "And he's dying." "Yes." Thessaly laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "My great-great-grandmother's worked that curse, a masterpiece of vengeance. She loved the king of her time, and he used her, discarded her. So she cursed his entire line. Clever girl, but not quite right. She cursed them to be destroyed by love. There's a difference. Can you break it? There is a failsafe." Thessaly leaned forward, chains rattling. "The curse is ice. The only thing that can melt it is fire. Specific fire. the fire of the fated mate. But my magic is bound, then unbind it. The man who holds your seal is somewhere in this house. Take back what he stole, then use your fire to burn the curse away. Will it work? Thessaly was quiet for a long moment. It might. Or it might kill you both. Fire and ice meeting in the bond. There's no predicting what will happen. But it's the only chance you have. Sidra rose on shaking legs. Fire. Her fire. The magic she had feared her entire life. It was the only thing that could save him. I'll do it. She turned to Atelier. Free her. And find me the seal. Atelier nodded, already moving to unlock Thessaly's chains. Sidra climbed the stairs back to the main house. She found Roderick in his study, a glass of wine in his hand. Daughter, he said calmly, I wondered when you'd come. Give me the seal, Sidra said. Roderick smiled. Or what? Murder, embezzlement, imprisonment of a magical being. I have witnesses. Fury flashed in his eyes. That ungrateful, the seal, now. Roderick rose, and Sidra saw what she had somehow always known. Fire kindled around his fingers. Dark fire. You think you can threaten me? He snarled. I made you, girl. He raised his hand. Sidra moved. She ducked under his blast of dark flame, grabbed the letter opener from his desk, and drove it into his shoulder. Roderick screamed. The fire around his hands guttered and died. The seal, Sidra said, standing over him. Roderick's face twisted with hatred, but he was beaten. Top drawer, left side. She found the box. Inside lay a small silver disc inscribed with symbols that made her skin burn, her seal, her prison. She crushed it in her hand. Pain exploded through her. Something tore inside her, something locked away for over a decade, and then fire. It roared up around her, golden and warm and impossibly beautifully hers. It didn't burn her. It embraced her. Sidra looked at her father through the flames. You're going to rot in a cell for the rest of your life, and I'm going to save my mate. She walked out, leaving him bleeding on the floor, surrounded by guards who would ensure he never hurt anyone again. Sidra rode back to the castle as dawn broke, fire crackling beneath her skin. She felt different, whole. The magic that had terrified her now felt like an extension of herself. But there was no time to revel. Dravek was dying. She burst into his chambers. The healers were gathered around his bed. The dark veins had covered his entire body, turning his skin black and silver. His breathing was barely perceptible. Everyone out, Sidra commanded. They fled. She approached the bed. Dravek lay motionless, frozen. She could feel the bond stretched thin, close to snapping. I'm here, she whispered. I'm not leaving you. She climbed onto the bed, took his frozen hands in her burning ones, and let her fire flow. It hurt. The ice inside him resisted, fought back, tried to freeze her flames. She felt the curse snarling, ancient and vicious. But Sidra was more determined. She thought of everything they had shared, the conversations by firelight, the confession of secrets, the kiss in the war room. She thought of the future she wanted, waking up beside him every morning, raising children who would never know the curse, growing old together. I choose you, she said aloud, pouring every ounce of fire into the words. Not because fate marked us, because I know you, because you believed in me, because you're the best man I've ever known. The ice cracked. I choose you, and I will burn down every curse that tries to keep us apart. The dark veins on his skin began to glow, not cold silver but warm gold. Her fire was spreading through him, melting the curse from the inside. Come back to me, please. For one terrible moment, nothing happened, and then Dravek's eyes flew open. They were silver. They were warm. They were full of wonder and love. Sidra, he breathed. She laughed through her tears. You're alive. He sat up slowly, staring at his hands. The dark veins were gone. His skin was warm, truly warm for the first time. How? He managed. Fire melts ice, she said, and love is the hottest flame there is. He stared at her. Then he laughed, full and bright. You saved me. You saved me first. He reached for her, pulled her into his arms. And when he kissed her, there was no desperation, no curse. Just warmth. Just love. Just two people choosing each other. When they finally pulled apart, Sidra rested her forehead against his. The curse is broken, she said. Not just for you, for the whole line. Our children will never suffer it. Our children, he repeated softly. If you want them. I want everything. His hands cupped her face. A real life. Waking up beside you every morning. Growing old with you. Then you'll have it. All of it. The real wedding, the one with a full bond and proper claiming, took place a month later, beneath the same moon that had witnessed their first ceremony. Sidra stood in the sacred circle, her fate mark glowing gold instead of silver. Across from her, Dravek waited, alive and healthy. I claim you, Dravek said. Not by sovereign right, not by law, by choice, by love, by the fire in your heart and the ice you melted in mine. And I claim you, my mate, my king, my home. When he bit her neck, marking her as his, she felt the bond snap into place, whole, complete, unbreakable. When she marked him in return, she felt his wolf rise to meet hers, not with feral hunger, with joy. The curse was truly broken. Later, at the celebration, Ottilie approached with a glass of wine. You did it, she said quietly. We did it. I couldn't have saved him without you. Ottilie shook her head. I spent years being a coward. You spent weeks being a hero. You stood up when it mattered. The sisters looked at each other. Years of pain hung between them. Then Ottilie smiled. Small, hesitant, real. I'd like to try again. Being sisters. Sidra considered all the reasons to say no. Then she thought about second chances. About choosing to move forward. I'd like that. Across the room, Dravek caught her eye. His gaze was warm and adoring. She excused herself and crossed to him. Dance with me? He asked, extending his hand. Always. As they moved together beneath the stars, Sidra thought about everything that had brought her here. The ceremony where she'd been rejected. The impossible arrangement. The curse she had burned away. What are you thinking? Dravek murmured. That I spent my whole life believing I was cursed, unlovable, wrong. And now? She looked up at him. Now I know the truth. I was never cursed. I was just waiting for someone brave enough to see me. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I see you, he whispered. All of you. And I love every part. In the distance, a wolf howled at the moon, then another, then hundreds, celebrating their king and queen, two broken souls who had found wholeness in each other. Sidra closed her eyes. She had been chosen by fate, rejected by a king, and claimed before the entire pack. But what mattered wasn't fate or rejection or even the claiming. What mattered was this. Two people standing together in the moonlight, choosing each other for the rest of their lives. And that was more than enough.